The more you do it, the easier it is going to get. And one thing also I always tell people is when you're learning a new language, consider yourself like a newborn. When babies are learning languages, they don't always focus on, let me speak this way, let's, no. They listen, they repeat. You listen, you repeat without knowing what is the meaning. So once you do that, and when you get to a level like, okay, now I can know, okay, the meaning of this is this, the meaning of that is this, then it is going to be easier for you. The third issue we usually face is placement of pronoun. Where is Lego? Where is Lago? Like those indirect pronoun, indirect, like all of those. Where does it go? How do you know how to place them? Always. Once you learn them, we know that usually it comes before verbs, or if there is compound verb, like where do we have an auxiliary verb and we have main verb, it will come before the auxiliary verb. You just have to learn them that way and try to pronounce them. Try to speak. You just don't learn grammar like no. Try to learn by you listen, you repeat. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. But if you don't do it that way, it is going to be difficult. The next key topic is, let's say, verb tenses or subjunctives. How do we use them? When do we use them? Or why do we use them? You want to know them mostly? Focus on common trigger points. When c'est bien que, je suis sûr que, il faut que. You know, that is a trigger point. That means you need to use a subjunctive. Once you know that, it is going to be easier for you to use them the right way. Else, when you don't need to use them, do not use them. That is one advice. Because I usually face students like, yeah, you are trying to speak about something which is quite simple. You are trying to include some difficult verb tenses. You are trying to include subjunctive inside. There is no point in doing that. If you can focus on present tense, do that. Don't try to complicate things. The last thing about challenges we face is people will usually memorize vocabs and grammar. Instead of memorizing those, just try to learn by listening and repeat. Listen more or reading and repeat. You listen to something, you repeat. You read something, you repeat. The more you do it, the easier it is going to be for you to learn new vocabs, to learn new grammar rules, and so on. It can be from a movie, from a song, from a novel, like literally anything you feel like doing. But the more you listen, the more you read, the more you repeat, the easier you're going to learn new vocabs and those grammars. After that, we usually face how do you speak fluently? Speaking, it is quite difficult. How would I sound like a native speaker? Mastering French language, it's not going to be easy. That is one thing I can tell you. It is not going to be easy. Like me, I'm a native French speaker. I had to learn English. While learning English, I don't have to be like, oh no, I need to change my accent. I need to sound like a British. I need to sound like an American. No. As long as I know the language, that's okay with me. I don't have to sound like one. If I can understand them, if they can understand me, which is okay. Sound will not really matter as much. You don't have to sound like a native. No. Know your vocab, know your grammar, which is okay. But now you want to sound like one. In French, sometimes you can ask me, let's say, tu viens aujourd'hui. If I have to say a negative answer, I don't have to say je ne viens pas. No, je viens pas. I can deduct the N. The ne cannot be there. The same thing we do in English. You can swallow words. You can deduct words. The more you do it, you're going to sound like a native. But if you always have to speak sentences in full, ben, j'arrive. A native will speak that. You can say, no, j'arrive. I can say, ben, j'arrive. Je suis en route. Oh, qu'est-ce que tu fais? I can add sound It is not really a word that has a meaning, but it is just added there for us to talk casual. Intonation and rhythm. How do we do that? It is intonation and rhythm is not accent. No. How do you pronounce things? As a native speaker, like as a non-native speaker, put it that way. When you're learning a new language, starting from the alphabet, if I ask most of you which letter do you struggle with the most, you're gonna see people telling you like R, you're gonna see people telling you like U, you're gonna see people telling you like W. Those letters is usually difficult for non-native. It's okay. The more you listen, you repeat, you are gonna get there. The nasal sounds, how to connect words. Ils ont, be compared to ils sont. Okay? Just listen, repeat, listen, repeat. You are gonna get those rhythm, you're gonna get those intonation. You don't have to mind about accent. Even if you're giving your exam, no one will ask you like why you don't sound like French. No, they know you are not a native. They know that. So they're never gonna ask you that. The main goal is you need to know what you are saying. You need to understand what you are saying. If you do that, it's going to become easier. So read more, listen more, speak more. Don't mind about sounding or having an accent of a native speaker. No, keep your accent. Those filler that sounds, filler what like I say, ben, j'arrive, ouais, comment tu vas? All those are all filler words. There is no meaning to it. Literally not. We just use them to just add some, let's call like spice into what we are doing. You just use them. Hey, on arrive. Ben, je suis en route. Oui, comment ça va? Oh, j'arrive. Mais ça fait quoi? Je ne sais pas. So the only way you get that is by listening. My advice, mostly you can take them from movies, some from songs. Because if you listen to songs, you have a specific time to finish like maybe like a 2, 3 pages lyrics. So saying all those sentences in full, you might not have enough time. Or from even movies, you have a long script. You have maybe like 10 minutes to finish the script. If you read the script fully, you are not going to be able to do it. So swallow words, deduct some words, remove some words, do those liaisons. It's going to be easier for you to do that. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So just like I said, I will repeat again. Learn more. Let me listen, read more. When I'm talking about reading, I'm not talking about you just open, okay, present tense of avoir, present tense of être, present tense of dormir. Don't just learn it that way. Buy a novel, newspaper, any of those. Read, highlight new word that you don't know the meaning. By the time you do that, you already have a sentence there with you. So you know how it is used. You are going to learn something grammatically. Listen, you know how it sounds. You repeat, you will know, okay, oh, I sound the same or I sound different. Record yourself, work on it. You're gonna get the accent. Not really the accent, but you're gonna know how to pronounce the word. You might still have your accent, which is okay, but you're gonna know how to pronounce them. Okay? So the more you do all of those advices, the easier it is gonna be for you. That is the only way you can learn all of this and sound like a native speaker. But if you don't do that, it is going to be difficult for you. So from now, we are going to introduce one of our colleagues, Gayatri, who is also a B1 French student, and she's also doing her master's in French language. To open up our Q&A with maybe 2 or 3 questions, then after that, we can take some few questions from other students.
Thank you so much, Christina, for introducing me. So, as he said, I'm currently pursuing my master's in French and preparing for DELF B2. So, still today I face some challenges with the language. And I'm pretty sure that many learners, no matter what level they are at, will relate to these things. So, today I'll be asking a few questions to our guest speaker on those tricky to get clarity on those tricky areas. So, Christian, I know that native speakers talk really fast. So, how can we train our ears to understand natural spoken French better?
Okay, to do that, the first thing is to listen a lot. Like you need to listen to them quite a lot. You don't have to have a specific level for you to listen to them. That means you can just start French right now, today. You can go on YouTube, you can find a French movie, open it, try to listen, pause whenever you can. When you listen to something, write it down. Because as an example, I can ask everyone, most of you knew what like say bonjour means without maybe learning French. Most of you knew maybe like know what je t'aime means without learning French. Because whenever you watch a movie, you watch maybe a YouTube series or a podcast, you listen to it, maybe they write the meaning there. So do a lot of listening. You might not, maybe like someone can say 50 words. For your first time, you might just catch one or two that you have maybe heard about it before. Listen to it again, you might catch three. Listen to it again, four, five, and so on. The more you listen, the easier it is going to get. For example, if you're watching YouTube, sometimes you can slow down the speed of the video. Slow it down. Listen. Have a note next to you, notepad. Write it down. Repeat it, and so on. The more you listen, the easier it gets. So, but if you don't do that, then it is just gonna be difficult for you to actually catch up with them. So you're always gonna struggle. I hope I was able to answer your question.
Yeah, and that clears things up. Thank you. So, next is are there any filler words or common habits in conversation that make speech sound more authentic and clear?
Oh yes, just like during our presentation, we have quite a lot of filler words. Like I say, you can like ben, comment ça va? Ben, tu es en retard. Et il va bien, and so on. Those are all filler words. There is no meaning to them. They are just there for you to sound natural. So for you wanna sound natural, you can use those filler words. You wanna sound like a native speaker, you can use those filler words. You don't have to speak sentences in full, especially in speaking in informal setting. I'm talking if you are having a job interview, you are talking to your boss, you have maybe like to write something, you need to write them in full, you need to speak in full. But talking to your friend, going to the market to do shopping, maybe having a casual conversation, include those. Ben, comment ça va? Hey, t'es en retard? Je sais pas. The more you use that, the more you sound natural.
But can you tell me or explain it little bit more? Why do we use it? What is the need of using filler words?
Okay, there is no specific need per se, but it is just there to make us like fit in, let's put it that way. You need to fit in. Like they are saying, like, no, you go to this village, you see people dancing with using the left leg, follow the speed, dance with your left leg. So you wanna fit in, talk like them. It is like I say, even if you say English, there are different states. Let's say that you are in the UK or in the US, you're gonna see that different states they have a different style of speaking. So once you get there new, you have to kind of learn some of their style so that you can fit in. If you don't do that, it's going to be difficult. So it is just about like a fitting in, but you don't want to use them, that's okay. You are gonna sound like someone who is just not native. You are not, but you wanna fit in, you wanna sound natural and authentic, learn few of them, use them in the day in your day-to-day conversation. It is going to be quite good.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That is really helpful. Uh, and like, would you recommend focusing on thematic vocabulary like food, travel, or learning more naturally through context? Because I'm sure that many learners will have this question, like how to go with the vocabulary part.
Okay. The answer to that is going to be yes and no. Why I say yes and no? Let's say you are learning French as it is just something you want. Maybe you're in a medical field, for example. You're in a medical field and learning those thematic words, it is going to be necessary because if you know how to say kidney in French, if you know how to say liver in French, it is going to help you. So even if you learn basic French, you know how to say bonjour, comment ça va, you still need to learn words related to your field. So as a beginner, you just want to learn French in general, you can learn words, vocabs that are related to day-to-day conversation first. You learn grammar, how to use them, and so on. Then you can focus on your specific field. You do finance, learn words related to finance. You do art, learn some words related to art. You do medical pharmacy, learn words related to pharmacy. Because no matter how, if you can be a B2 level student, you can be a C1 level student. If you don't have vocabs related to pharmacy, how will you survive? You are going to struggle. If you are an architect, you don't know vocab related to architecture, you are going to struggle. So you can still learn those vocabs and try to use them as much as you can, which is going to be quite good.
Okay, so you suggest a combination of both thematic vocabulary and learning through context.
Yes, exactly.
Sure, that would definitely help to sound more like a native. Okay, so I still have many questions, but I will open floor to our students. So please go ahead and ask questions. If you feel free to ask and drop questions in the chat as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gayatri, for your questions. So let's take question from our guest. You can just raise your hand, ask your question, or you can write it down in the chat box, and then I can answer your question. Okay, we have a question for Arwin Singh. Is series like Plus Belle la Vie good for A to beginner for practicing listening to native? Okay, Arvin, I don't think I've watched that series, but one thing I can tell you, anything in French, if it is a series, if it is a movie, try to listen to them. Don't just mind your level. Because if you are just, no, I'm an A2 student, let me not listen to this. It is too difficult for me. When do you think you are going to reach to that level? Or how do you think you are going to reach to that level if you don't really practice? Like I said, you are a new baby. You don't see babies or kids telling you like, no, what are you talking? I don't know that. Just talk to me about candies and talk to me about biscuit. No, they just listen and they try to repeat. They don't know the idea behind it. They don't know the grammar you have to follow to say what you just said. They don't know that. They just listen and they repeat. So that is the same thing. So if it is a series, even if you are in A1, even if you are in C1, even if you are in B1, if it is a movie, just listen to it. You can start from French to French, and then from there, you can take, maybe you can take French to English, for example, with subtitles, if there is subtitles. If not, you can probably find the subtitles online and then download them and then put both together. Then you can go French to French subtitles. When you are listening, please do write down. Please do repeat the sentences. Please, when after writing down, open your dictionary, open whatever tool you use to understand or to know the meaning. Open those, come up with ideas like to make different sentences and so on. So that is my advice to you. Don't just focus on your level. The more you listen, the easier it gets. And if it is by native, if it is a French movie, if it is a Canadian movie, if it doesn't have to be like, unless it is even if it is a translated movie, let's say it is an American movie, there is a French version of it. The people that do the translation are mostly native, are close to being native. So you can listen to it, repeat, learn any new things you can learn. The more you do it, the easier it gets. Yes, that's why. Start listening as soon as possible. Even if you just start French today, pick anything and start listening to it. Yes, Web.
Hi, Christian. I hope you're
Hello.
doing good.
I'm
I
doing
just
good,
have
thank you.
a question is that, as you know, French people, they tend to speak a lot faster than the people who speak different languages.
Yeah.
And when the languages have so much nasal sounds and, silent words, silent letters, so the only thing I have trouble is when you speak to someone, when you try speaking to someone, and
Mm.
then you are focused. What I do is I focus on that nasal sounds to pronounce them right, so that the person who is native or who speaks French can understand what I'm gonna like. The other day, I was telling a native speaker that I was learning to speak French, and the word "learn" is apprendre. So I was focusing on apprendre so that he doesn't mistake me that I'm saying something like prend or pedre. And at first, when I was focusing too much on apprendre, he didn't
Yeah.
understand me. So that's
Okay.
what, like, if I'm focusing too much on the nasal sounds, the people, native people, they get confused sometimes. So would you rather have me focus more on the nasal sounds, or you would like just try and speak whatever, like how much I can pronounce and
Okay, that is a really good question. Okay, my advice to you will be don't directly focus on the nasal sound. Because like I said, there are some sounds you are never gonna be able to get them right the first time you try them. It might take you weeks, it might take you months, it might take you hours, depending on your capacity. So try to focus on the word entirely, first of all. But each word, like I say, most words are break down into syllable. Before even the sound, there are syllable. Now those syllable, that is what create those sounds. So if you can break them down, even if there is one sound that is not right, but once you pronounce them maybe like in full, you can get it, if not 100, maybe 80% right. Someone will understand. Let's say j'apprends, you say like j'apprends. Okay, someone j'apprends. What do you mean? Do you mean j'apprends? They can ask you that, which is already good because you are close to it. But if you say j'y prends, for example, you start with G. Right from the first sound, you are naturally getting instead of Jean, you say J. Even if you get the prends right, j'y prends, they will think you say j'y prends. That means the G, Y, and apprends. They will think that compared to if you say j'apprends. They can ask you, what do you mean, j'apprends or j'apprends? So try to focus on the entire word in general than just one specific nasal sound. You can miss on that, but if the entire word or the entire sentence is close to what they can understand, they will ask you to repeat. So oh, do you mean this or do you mean that? And they say, oh yeah, that is what I mean. Then they can give you an answer.
sounds good. Thank you, Christian.
Okay, you're most welcome. Any other questions? Looks like no one want to ask a question. We have over 14, 15 students, I would say, but there is no question for me. Hello.
Well, I'll go with my question, Christian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure. So, When you write or speak, do you always follow grammar rules like the native ones? They follow grammar rules strictly, or are there rules that are that even natives bend?
No, not really. Like I just even told you. Let's say I'm talking to you, even if both of us are native, but we are not in a formal setting, and I have to. Let's say I say je suis malade. The suis can have S missing in the end, or instead of J, I can write the letter J. You are gonna because they sound the same. The GE and the J both sound the same. It is the same way like when you text. There are people that text fully, but then if you just keep on texting fully, what should be the point? Sometimes you can shorten your words. That's the same thing you're gonna face when natives speak to each other, either in writing or in speaking. But whenever it comes to a formal setting, a formal letter, a formal notice, or anything like that, you need to write them in full. Or you are going to give your DEF exam, your TCF exam, your DELF, literally, you need to write your words in full. If you don't write them in full, you are not going to be graded right. So that is the situation. So you don't always have to follow the grammar. You don't have always to follow like the rules. Sometimes you can mix them up whenever you're talking to a friend or even a native, like in an informal setting.
Okay, makes sense. But if we are in a formal situation,
Yes.
yeah, if I am interacting with my colleague in French, then obviously we need to follow rules, right?
Yeah, if you are in a formal situation, yes, you need to follow the rules. Because if you don't follow the rules, then that makes it like it's let's say you're talking to your boss, you say you use T. How does it sound? Unless they gave you that permission. So you have to use the full. It is the same way between formal and informal setting. You can, if you are not using the right grammar, the right word and all, it is like you're using T to your boss when you have to use the full. But if it is something casual with your friend, people you are close to, there is no need to do all of that.
Okay, thank you. And now I feel that writing sometimes it feels robotic when you learn many patterns, some grammar patterns at advanced level, some new vocabulary, some expressions. Then you feel a need, urge to use them in a sentence or when you are writing uh, on a subject, particular subject. So how to avoid that?
Okay. Let me take an example. Let's say you're preparing for your TF, for example, where they are writing section A and section B. Let's take section B, where you at least need to write maybe like 4 or 5 paragraphs, which most students find it difficult. Then you have learned some pattern, like at least how to start the introduction, paragraph 1, 2, and 3, and then your conclusion. It might be maybe like small line. En effet, or ceci pour conclure, and then you have an idea. After that, just let your mind flow. Like I said, as long as your grammar is right, just like be creative. Like try to come up with, like I said, you just have to follow the grammar. In that moment, you have to follow the grammar. As long as you can follow it, you use the right tense, you place your pronoun, your preposition at the right place, which is okay. Just be creative and write freely. You cannot learn an entire pattern like no. Leave this because if you memorize the answer completely when you have to write and then they change the topic, it is going to be difficult. It is going to be difficult. So just be free and let your mind flow. And then as long as the grammar is right, you use the right verb, the right pronoun, the right preposition, the right adverb at the right place. That is the best thing you can do.
Okay, great. Thank you. We do have some questions from students from
Yes.
Steve and Harry.
Um, I have Navpreet Go who asked, when I listen to French podcasts or watch French film with English subtitles, I tend to focus on reading the English translation. Will this still be beneficial? Yes, it will still be beneficial. What I mean is, when you are watching and you are reading, you can realize that your mind is doing two things at the same time without you knowing it. But your mind is doing two things. Listening, it is going through your mind, and also reading. You are doing two things. You might not know it, but that is what is happening. So keep on doing that. Once you do that, the more you do it, you listen and then you are reading. And then after that, you can now remove that English subtitles. Now put maybe now in French. You change. Now your mind is doing the same two things, but in the same language. Before it was in two different languages, in French and English. Then it becomes in French and French. So now you can, okay, the word that I say, this is how you write it. By that moment, even if you don't really know the meaning completely of the word in English, but now you know how to write it in French. And even if you don't know the how to pronounce it completely in French, you still know how to write it. You have like you are gonna be at least 50, 15, 1 or 70, like it depends. After that, you can now go to listening to it in French only. You listen, you repeat, you listen, you repeat, you listen, you repeat, you listen to you repeat. When you listen, you repeat. If there is something now for after you listening and repeating that you don't know in English completely, open your dictionary, pause your movie, or pause your podcast, or pause your song, and then try to read it and try to understand what does it mean, and try to make some sentences based on them. So it is still beneficial, like even if you don't know what you are doing, but your mind knows what it is doing. As an example, I can even give it to you is I might ask you maybe like there is a song you have listened to maybe 10, 15 years ago. If they play that song again today, you might still know the lyrics. I don't know if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
We still tend to know that, even if it is 20 years ago, you might not know it completely, but you know something. But probably you didn't even go through the lyrics of that song. But how did you understand the song? You listened to it maybe like a lot of time. It was your favorite song. You listen today, you might just know the first line. You listen to more, you might know that maybe like the first line, the third, and the second, the third, and so on. The more you keep listening, the more you keep knowing that song. And even if you stop listening to it for years, you are not going to forget it completely. But let's now switch it. Can you tell me there is something you have read maybe 20 years ago? You just read them. If they ask you to repeat them, will you be able to do that?
No.
You might struggle.
Yeah.
So you come to realize that listening is the best way you can learn.
Mm.
So
Thank
even if
you.
you read will help you improve your vocab, to learn those patterns, those grammar, but the only way you can actually be able to use them and be able to speak is by listening. Okay?
Mhm. Thank you.
You're most welcome. And we have a question for our saying, when reading novel book, is it okay to use text to speech or AI generated audio? I ask because not every book have a native recorded audio books to listen to, which be harmful in training our ear. Okay. There are some of those that sound quite like native, or even if it is not close, which is still okay. That will take you to where I said. You do not only have to focus on the accent at first. Listen to it. If you know how they pronounce it, it might not be the right way, but when you now get to use them in real life with native speaker, they will help you if you don't pronounce it right. You might not pronounce it right, but if they do understand, they are going to reply to you. And when they reply to you, if they use the same word, you are going to know it, how to pronounce it like them. Or you can ask them, how do you pronounce this again? And so on. So reading, like usually use it to help you blend new words, learn new pattern. And sometimes instead of using text to speech, the other thing is if any dictionary, even on Google, even online, in any dictionary, when you type a word, there is a mic there. You can, like a speaker, if you press, they will pronounce it. And usually those are the right pronunciations of each one of those words. You can use that. You don't have to literally use, let's say, AI or text to speech to pronounce the entire sentence. You can learn one sentence after the other. You read a sentence, you type J, okay, J, T, or you can even type the entire sentence online on Google. So it's going to give you the meaning and it's going to give you where you can press and then listen to it. Both are fine. It is not going to harm your ear, your training. It's not going to harm you at all. But you just have to know later on, you might need to fix one or two things. I hope I managed to answer your question. Okay. Being a beginner, when I try to listen to French stuff at slow speed and get few words or sentences, but the challenge is to start creating full-fledged sentences on my own. Okay, that is a good question. So you are a beginner. It is as a beginner, like I say, it is going to be different. And why do you face issues to create sentences on your own? You are gonna realize that because your vocab level is not that high. Your vocab is not that fully there. So you might listen, you might be able to pronounce them. But when you have to create a sentence, that is when like the grammar and the vocab gets in the picture. So first advice is try to just focus on the listening and repeating. You listen, you repeat, you listen, you repeat, you listen, you repeat. Then by listening and repeating, have somewhere you do your reading and you are learning some new vocab. So if you find a vocab that can fit in a sentence, you have listened to one time. Like you can maybe like change a word. Take that word, take that vocab, that's new vocab, put it in your sentence. If you find like, oh no, I can actually change this sentence, I can change this preposition, I can change this adverb, or I can change these adjectives, or I can change this pronoun, do change. Then you start, once you learn, you try to change one or two or three, you are going to be able to now change the entire sentence. The more you do that, you're going to get to where like, okay, you can actually create your own sentence. You're going to know, okay, I already know where the subject fits in, where the object fits in, where the preposition, the adverb, the adjectives, and so on. So that is what you can do.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
okay, you're most welcome.
Okay.
And I recently joined Bibata and will like to know if the material on the platform are enough to enable me score CLB 7 in TF, or I need to study other books or buy some apps in addition. If yes, what would you recommend? Okay, the honest answer to this is the materials on our platform will not help you to get a CLB 7. And this is what I mean. Because that materials doesn't have all the vocabs, let's say, that you will actually use in real life or real sentence. Because there is no one that just will put everything in there. Even people that wrote a dictionary, they don't know everything that is written. It's an idea, it's a combined idea. So what I mean is everything you get from Bibata, it is going to help you learn all the grammar structures. It's going to help you learn literally everything you need to get a CLB 7. But you still need to add new vocab. You still need to add a lot of listening. You still need to add a lot of reading. You need to do a lot of speaking because no matter even if you finish all the materials, if you don't use them in speaking or in writing, when you go write your exam, you are not going to make it. You are going to fail. Not because you are not taught right, but because you didn't practice right except those materials. So you always have to combine those materials including other books. So recommendation, you can use all those books that let's like those editor book, all those Cosmopolitan and all of that. On top of that, a lot of novels, a lot of newspapers, podcasts. Let's put movies. Let's put songs. Literally all of this. You need to combine everything. By doing that, you are gonna get your CLB 7 or more. So don't just stick to like, okay, no, I'm learning at BBatters. I have uh, notes on verbe avoir, verbe être, verbe devoir, savoir. I have some vocabs on this. No, don't just stick to that. You need to still learn more. You need to still listen to more. You need to still write more, speak more, and so on. I hope I managed to answer your question, Kofi Taki. I hope I pronounce your name right. Yes, Anshika. I see your hand has been raised. Anshika, are you still with us?
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
So, hi, Christian. First of all,
Hello.
thank you for this call.
Yeah,
So, this has explained a lot of concepts for me. I
thank
would
you.
like to expand on the questions my peers have asked before me. So,
Yeah,
we have talked about training our ear to listen to French and understand French, but
yes.
being speaking French also has a lot of soft sounds, a lot of nasal voices, and training your throat to use your epiglottis,
Yeah.
which is I sometimes struggle with. So you are a native speaker, as I understand that you might have been, you have grown up with these sounds. So
Yeah.
are there any tips or tricks to train your throat and nasal voices? Because as English is also not my first language, it's a second
Mhm.
language. But because I
Yeah.
started learning English so young, I don't even remember how I trained myself.
Exactly. You see what you say. You started learning English so young. You don't even remember how you train yourself.
Yeah,
You did train yourself mostly by just repeating.
right.
It is about repetition. The more you repeat, the easier it's become. I can give you a word. Let's say, who knows spoon in French in here?
Okay.
I don't know if there is anyone in this call who knows spoon in French. That word most people struggle to pronounce it, for example. A lot of students struggle to pronounce that non-native. So the only thing you can do is when you listen to it today, repeat it. If you don't get it right, it's fine. Repeat it again tomorrow. If you can repeat it 10 times that first day, do so. Repeat them tomorrow, the after tomorrow, and so on. The more you do, you are gonna see that it's gonna get close to it. Because there is not like a tip, or the only tip is repetition. The more you repeat, the easier it gets.
So
The
would
more,
you,
yeah.
I'm sorry, sorry to cut you. Would you recommend that we do our speaking practices also with the native speaker, or would it be all right to, do it
Mm,
with each other as well? Because I use Discord or other resources to, talk
yeah.
to people around the world. So would that help more?
Yes, you need to practice with native speaker.
Right.
Yeah. If you don't, you cannot find one, or you don't have someone you can actually practice with. There are, like I said, there are movies, there are songs, there are series where you can listen to something maybe like you struggle with. So
Okay.
when you listen, you pause, you repeat. Listen, you pause, you repeat. Even if you're gonna do it 10,000 times, do it until you get it right. Then you move on. So the advice is, if you have a native speaker you can practice with, do so. You can practice with your friends, your colleague, and so on, which is good. You are trying to learn something new together. It will help you practice together, but also practice your native speaker. So if you're practicing with your colleague, you can, for example, online, you might find maybe like a conversation. You can play it, both of you. You listen, you repeat, they listen, they repeat, and so on. You can literally pick one side, they pick the other. There are two people. You can both sit down, you listen to it completely, you try to repeat, then you can pause it, you just put the script. You try to pronounce your line, they pronounce their line, and so on. Then you can change.
Okay.
They take your role, you take theirs. So that is how you can practice to get there.
That clears that up. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. And please, can you also give me estimated time from beginner to CLB7 level? I know it depends a lot on the ones I for, but it's 10 months, for example, too short, or if I put in 2 hours every day. Okay, coffee. Yeah, like you said, to get a CLB7, it all depends on someone. Like there is usually let's kind of average time frame for most people. They might exist 10 months or 12 months. So that is on average how do people get there. But there are people that can achieve the CLB7 in probably let's say 6 months. There are people that can achieve it in maybe 3 years. There are people that can achieve it in maybe 4 years. Like I said, it is about how many times you spend in a day. You might spend 2 hours a day. You might spend 1 hour a day. You might spend 10 hours a day. All that will matter is how do you spend those hours. I'm gonna give you three examples. Let's say one spends 2 hours a day, the other one spends 5 hours, the other one spends 10 hours. So let's say the 10-hour student, what it does is it goes through, let's say like you are a student of B Butters, you take maybe like avoir in present tense, you open it, you go through it, you repeat it maybe like for 2, 3 hours. You open avoir, you do the same, you open être, you do the same. You do that for 10 hours. The one who does 5 hours, they open that's avoir present tense. They probably try to find a YouTube video where there is a conversation with avoir in the present tense. When they do that, they see that avoir in real life scenario, and they again learn some new vocabs in those conversations that they didn't learn in that avoir material only. Okay? And then they do the same thing with être. And then we have someone else who do maybe like 2 or 3 hours. They do both things the example one do and example two do. They read the materials, they have a YouTube conversation and so on, and then they have a specific hour where they now go practice it with someone. Let it be their colleague, let it be a native speaker. What do you think will learn the faster? Probably it's going to be the one taking that 3 hours, but he's mixing all three aspects of the language, and they are maybe including some reading. So if they do that every day, maybe within 6 months, they can all be at the same level. Or maybe that's 3 hours a day is going to be higher, at least in one aspect of the language. Because we can, let's like, we have maybe 3 students, all they do study 10 hours. In the end, someone might have issue in listening compared to reading and writing. Someone might issue in writing compared, that will all depend on where did they spend most time on, what did they study the most, and so on. So it is not only about timing, it is also about how you split those timing. So my advice, if you spend 2 hours, if you spend 3, 4, 5, 10, include reading your materials, include having some novel, if it is novel, newspaper, or anything to read, have some listening as like portion or during your practice, and have some speaking portion. Literally mix all four. Do it on day-to-day basis. Reading, listening, writing, and reading. I mean, you listen, you write, you speak, and you write. Literally, all the same way you prepare for the TF, you have to do all those 4 sections. Do the same thing every day. Practice all those things every day. You learn one topic, find something that can include that one topic or even other topics. I hope I was able to answer your question. And I will ask again. I find that when I'm reading French, I'm automatically translating in English. Feels like I'm reading in English. Any trick to avoid doing that? Example, in my native language, I don't translate. I just know what word means. I assume a lot of practice listening and using the language will help eventually. But is there any specific type of practice that could help, and what type of practice? Okay, it is a good question. And why you do that is like you are learning the language new. You just started it. And the way you learn it, you are usually trying to connect it to a language you already know, which is, let's say, English. When you're learning French, you already know English. You are trying to connect them. So when you are reading in your head, oh, this means this in English. Yeah, you're already doing it. It is automatic because your brain is used to like that is how you are learning at the beginning. Now, the more you do that, you are gonna realize that the English side will start disappearing slowly. And then you're gonna get to a point, it is just French. Or you might literally learn a French word that you don't even care to know the English meaning of that word. You don't even need to know the English meaning. And even if they ask you, okay, what is the meaning of that in English? Oh no, I don't know. Let me check. I do face that right now also. When I started learning English, I was having the same situation. When I'm learning something, I have to always translate it in French. Like, okay, this means that. But right now, there are English words. I don't know the meaning in French. If someone asks me, okay, I will have to check. I will have to literally check. But in the beginning, that was not the situation. Every English word that I was learning or knew, I knew the meaning in French. But after years of practice, I have English word that I know. I do not know the meaning in French. So there is literally nothing I can tell you that will exist except just keep on listening, keep on sticking to that. And then you're gonna get to a point, it is just gonna be French and French. And now, one way you can also do that is, if let's like now, because this is mostly reading, you can now try to do some listening, where you are listening to something completely in French. Try to listen to something completely in French. No, even if you decide to put a subtitle, put a French subtitle. Else, just keep it in French. And then try to know the meaning. You are gonna get to know the meaning sometime. Even if it is your first time, if you know 2, 3, 4, 5 words out of 7 in a sentence, you might know what they are trying to tell you. Okay? So that is what you can do, Arwen. I hope I was able to answer your question. Any other question? Yes, thank you for attending, Vishal. Do we have any other question?
Okay, Christian,
Yes.
thank you so much for answering all the questions. It was really insightful. So just to wrap it up, like I would like to ask one last question.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, so what advice would you give to learners who feel stuck and aren't seeing progress in the language?
Okay. If you feel stuck somewhere during your training, you need to ask yourself, how do you have been doing that? How have you been doing that? Like, do you like what you are doing or not? If not, try to include something. Try to change something out of it. Try to, let's say you just used to open your book, just read, 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 read. You finish, you close your book. Now try to maybe include some games related to the language. Try to include some song related to the language. Try to add something new that you are not doing before. If you do that, you are gonna see that you are not going to be stuck anymore. So try to change the way you usually study. Try to add something new. Try to incorporate something new in your studying journey, and then you are gonna see that it is going to be all right. Things are going to change.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
is there any other? Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there any other question? Okay. It looks like it is.
Just,
Yes.
just to add it up a little bit to what you said, our live sessions will definitely help students, right, to like improve fluency, strengthen their language, because every aspect of the language, be it listening, reading, writing, speaking, is covered in our live session. So we would definitely want students, our internal students, as well as our external students who are looking forward to purchase the program, to, like our program is structured in such a way that every unit will really, give you whatever you need at that level. Every writing practice, every quiz is curated in such a way that it will be helpful for you to go ahead in the language journey, to stay motivated as well. So yeah, I think you would agree with me, Christian.
Yes, that is right. Because in, let's say, like in one of our courses, the all-in-one program, you are gonna have all the units, including literally from A1, that will take you all the way to someone achieving a CLB 7, for example. And after a specific number of units, you are gonna have some test, let's call it, or exam that will test your writing, your listening, your reading, and your speaking. We usually also conduct some live classes where in each live class there are some live quizzes. Except those live quizzes, there are some speaking practices and there are some writing practices, including reading also. So if you combine all of the, like I said, if you remember during in our webinar, we talked about including all those four aspects. In after each unit or a specific number of units, you are gonna have you'll be tested, let's put it that way, in all those four aspects: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And then from A1, you're going to be tested for the A2, you're going to be tested for this B1, and so on. When you include that with quizzes in each unit, when you include that with the notes you're going to get from those, when you include during our live practice, we play some video from native speakers. When you put all that together with your other extra practices, you are going to really help you a lot, and you can easily achieve your CLB 7.
Yeah, definitely.
So that is the advice I can give you. So if you are an external student, you want to improve your French, you can join us. We can help you achieve that in a short amount of time with our really experienced teachers and with the help 24/7 whenever you can, or within few hours of your queries or question, we can help you achieve your French dream, your French journey. Okay, I guess we don't have any more questions. So I will thank everyone for attending our class today. I hope I was helpful to everyone, and I hope to see everyone again very soon. And thank you once again for attending our webinar.